Okay. Hello, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Margarita.
Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome. We're going to wait maybe one more minute to let everyone get comfy and get into the room, and then we'll be ready to start. Okay, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. My name is Margherita Ghetti, and I am the JFI Next Wave programmer. On behalf of the Jewish Film Institute, I welcome you all to Lady Liberty TV and Comedy Cocktail Hour, which marks our second synagogue session live. We launched this series as soon as the lockdown started to ensure that virtual screenings and live conversations could keep happening throughout the pandemic, and that we could create a space to continue coming together as a community to watch films and talk about Jewish art, cinema, and television. Tonight, we're in for a treat, the public premiere of the pilot episode of Lady Liberty, a celebration of Pride Month and Global Pride Weekend. Director Taylor Lee Nagel and writer, producer, and comedian Julia Lindon are here with us today, tuning in from New York. And I'm super happy to see them here and to welcome them. Hello, Taylor. Hello, Julia.
Hello, thank you so much for having us and for organizing this wonderful event.
Yeah, it's exciting to see everybody.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to have you here. So after the screenings, we will reconvene on this virtual stage and we will be joined by some special guests. So you're all invited to stay, hear from our guests, ask your questions, and be part of the conversation. Another reason that makes this synagogue session live a very special one is that it brings together our JFI core audience and our Next Wave community of millennials and Gen Z film lovers. So if you're in the Next Wave demographic and you like what you see tonight, you can get or renew your Next Wave membership. And for just $45, you can have access to year-round film screenings, festivals, and special events, and meet new friends and be part of this community. And for the grandparents and the parents in the house tonight, we recommend the membership as a great present for your kids and grandkids and a perfect way to keep supporting our organization. Before we start, I also want to mention that JFI is thrilled to announce a 4-day showcase, JFI Cinegogue Summer Days, a reimagined festival experience of virtual and drive-in movies. We wanted to make sure that you wouldn't miss our summer edition of the festival at the Castro too much. And while we patiently wait for theaters to reopen, we can still get together to celebrate the power and best of Jewish film. So make sure to mark your calendars for July 16th through the 19th and keep an eye out because we'll reveal the lineup and program on July 1st. And on the same day, you can start buying tickets. We've been looking forward to today's event for a while. Julia, Taylor, myself, and the JFI team started planning this program in the fall, in November, which now feels like a lifetime ago and a different world. Many of you know that this event was originally scheduled to take place in May at the Comedy Club Piano Fight in San Francisco. And when the pandemic hit, we switched to a virtual event and moved it to early June. But as that date approached, we decided instead to pause and let the collective grief and repercussions of the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor sink in. So in this spirit, on this third and final date, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the scale and the effects of the pandemic of systemic racism and police brutality afflicting disproportionately Black and Brown communities. Anti-racism and inclusivity have been a part of the 40-year history of this organization. Now more than ever, JFI is committed to spotlighting and supporting art and film that fully represents the diversity of who we are as a community. So as we celebrate Lady Liberty, Pride Month, and Jewish culture in true intersectional spirit, we hope that tonight's screening and conversation can foster a sense of belonging across communities and motivate all of us to keep educating ourselves, to be allies, listen to each other, and to make all voices heard. And speaking of communities helping one another, a heartfelt thank you goes to our co-presenters, Frameline, Sketchfest, and Mind the Gap, and to our virtual host, Piano Fight, for helping us reach many of you in the Bay Area and beyond. The Next Wave program is supported in part by the Correct Foundation and the Maxine and Jack Zero Family Foundation, so we thank them too. So it's time to get comfy, get your cocktail ready. I do have my rosé here. And before I hit play and start the screening, I would like to send you off with a sweet description of Lady Liberty, written by Julia, the protagonist, one of the protagonists, and writer of the show, on the occasion of the presentation of the pilot at Tribeca last year. This show is based on my own life experience. Playing the character Shay Miller, basically a younger version of myself, was both comforting and wild. As a young comedian, I had a hard time accepting that something so vulnerable could produce any big laughs. I see now that good comedic storytelling is all about vulnerability. So thank you all so much for being here. This is a really big Zoom party, Zoom occasion, Zoom event, and I'm really excited. Let's start the pilot of Lady Liberty. Have fun. And I look forward to seeing you all back here in a little bit after the screening to open up the conversation to Julia, Taylor, some special guests, and all of you. Welcome back, everyone. An applause to this amazing pilot. Welcome back to those who were here earlier, and welcome to those who are joining us now. So I'd like to welcome once again Julia and Taylor. And I would like to start by saying that I love this pilot episode so much. I watched it a few times, and each time I'm struck by how much it makes me laugh, but also how much realness and vulnerability are in there. So as we celebrate Pride Month, this truly seems like important work. And I love how we see Shay finding her voice as a young queer woman living in a big city and trying to make it in an industry where she has to assert herself. And I really love the portrayal of friendship. To me, it's very sweet. And I'm sure that it resonates with a lot of Next Wavers that are with us tonight. And there's such a deep need for that, for crews of friends, as Shay would say. And it's strange to see you guys in clubs, live shows, but it really resonates more than ever now that these things are not to be taken for granted. So thank you so much. And I'm curious to learn more, as I'm sure our audience is. So I'll pass the virtual mic to you, Julia and Taylor.
Thank you.
So yeah, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone on this Zoom call. It's been so fun seeing your faces and reading names if you are dark. But just really overwhelming appreciation for Margarita and the whole JFI team who put this together.
Yes, thank you.
Taylor and I have been so excited about doing this event since November, and we, you know, it's unreal to be here tonight and see so many smiling faces. Also want to shout out to Nina and your background. It's epic. Look at Nina. And the stained glass Jewish pride flag background.
Yes.
I just wanted to take one moment to just short remarks kind of about how watching Lady Liberty right now, how it makes me feel. The big thing, you know, Margarita spoke about a whole bunch of things, but to me, during this time of quarantine, the thing that's strongest is connection. And obviously, I'm talking about big connections, like Shay's connection to herself and to her communities. But I'm also thinking a lot about those little connections, and specifically to those kind of random people who you see throughout your day, who kind of pepper it with a lot of color. And I think Lady Liberty really reminds us of that, and we're missing some of those interactions during quarantine. So I wanted to give a couple shout outs to those people in the Lady Liberty verse. So to start off, if you guys remember the sassy barista, definitely want to shout him out for, you know, dealing with Shay, but also how much do we miss our baristas right now? How much do we all want to order our full fat lattes or skim cortados or whatever annoying drink orders we have? So we definitely love him, even though that drink usually comes with an eye roll as well. Next, I want to shout out to our good friend, the Candyman, also known as the Uber driver, if you saw him. We miss those people in our life, the people who kind of give us the creeps, but also give us free candy. You know, plus and minus. One day I'll be back in an Uber, and hopefully there'll be a Candyman-esque guy, and I think it's fair to give him maybe a 3 stars. That feels right. And where would I be if I didn't take this last shout out to say hello and thank you to the gynecologist who we saw at the very beginning of Lady Liberty, a doctor who does anything other than give you a test for COVID. That seems like a luxury and something we all miss. So I definitely want to say thank you to the gyno, and I had no idea that I would be out here missing pap smears. Sorry, this is the Jewish Film Institute pap smears. That was my best and worst joke of the night. And with that, I will say, let's start the Q&A.
Thank you, Margarita. I don't know if Taylor wants to add anything or...
No, I think Julia really kicked it off there. I'll wait for some cues.
She did. Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing, how much I miss the experience of ordering a $8 cappuccino with a really long, you know, order and types of milk. And yeah, I definitely resonated with that. Thank you, Julia. Yeah, maybe I'll start out with the question and then we can open it up to the audience. It's a question for both of you, Taylor and Julia, and kind of just a wide question about, as filmmakers and writers and comedians, and comedian in the case of Julia, I'm very interested in what you just said, the idea of creating connections and fostering, you know, friendship. And for our next wave audience, this is, I think, one of the things that we all miss the most, right? Going out and the Uber scene, making friends. And but I'm also interested in the part about, you know, your professional life and how it has been for you in your respective works to do without live event and live fruition and real laughs that seem so quintessential to your art. And so, yeah, if you can tell us a bit about that, and also I'm curious to know if there's anything positive that actually came out of this break from real life events, which I think is an experience that if we're privileged enough to be in good health and you know, just educating ourselves and learning in this period, I think it's kind of a common experience. So curious to know how you guys are doing in that respect.
Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a complicated time for a number of reasons, but I think, you know, not being able to film things, not being able to collaborate in person, that's such a big part of filmmaking, is working together and that sort of energy that comes from being on a set or being on a shoot. So I definitely miss that. I think it's definitely a time where we get to like turn inward and maybe think about the stories that we haven't told yet, because we can't be out there. I spend the rest of my time making documentaries, so that's been put on pause as well. But it's exciting to have these opportunities to connect with so many people. I mean, if we had been in San Francisco, we would have been in the theater with everybody, but I think we're getting to see people from so many different parts of the country, maybe elsewhere too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been feeling similar. Definitely took time in the beginning of quarantine to turn inward and kind of reassess what I want to work on and what projects are most important. And I've really found myself collaborating with people who are across the country, or, you know, whose schedules now kind of match up with mine in some way, and just experimenting in places that are not exactly traditional film and TV. I love podcasting, and I've been able to do a lot of recordings over Zoom and book guests who we probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I started emceeing a virtual magic show online. So it's taking me to places I did not expect to go. And it's been fun, and we'll see when everything settles down how normalcy changes a bit.
Wow, amazing. If you want to put some links in the chat, I'm sure we're all curious about podcasts and your expertise in magic.
I have none.
Yeah, it sounds like yeah, it sounds like it's been a good time to maybe take a break, you know, having more time to work on one's art and expression in different ways. So I'm happy to know that it's been a fruitful period for you guys, and luckily this Zoom event comes at a time when I think most of us are used to this kind of interaction, and we can still feel warmth and laugh. I don't know how it is for you as the filmmakers, but I'm sure that I'm having a great time and laughing a lot and feeling everyone's presence. So it's quite incredible how far we went into. We've gone in being pros at virtual events. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a very unique experience to watch everybody's faces as they watch your film. I've never had that before.
Yeah, I bet. One other question I had, and then we can open up, is a question of representation. And so I mentioned in my introduction that the one of, you know, an important word of the moment that is intersectionality, and how we're thinking about, you know, as a Jewish institution, we're thinking about Jewish identity, but in this period is inevitable and the right thing to do to also be aware of everything that is going on and think about injustices, but also this kind of raising wave of racial, like awareness of race and racism and anti-racism. So I was wondering how this is affecting your thoughts, and if you see yourself, you know, as we celebrate Pride Month at the Jewish Film Festival, in a period in which, again, anti-racism seems to be a concern and a topic of kind of self-growth and education for many of us. If there's anything that is happening for you guys, and how you think your work may reflect that, and just how you're doing with respect to that whole set of intersections.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that everybody takes this moment to recognize how important it is to think about the representation in your films or what it looks like on screen and behind the camera as well. And I think we all have to take a hard look at like how we're making those choices to be more inclusive and anti-racist. I think it's from every level of the filmmaking process that we have to address that. And
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's something that Taylor and I have been talking a lot about, and we're, you know, the two of us have just been spending a lot of time speaking and sharing thoughts and sharing articles and educating ourselves, and we're very committed and definitely in our filmmaking in the future, and just want to get to amplify voices of color and really put them in front of the camera as much as possible and behind.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think we can open up to questions in the audience. But before we do that, I would like to reveal that we have a couple of special guests in the house, and I'm super excited. So we have Sarah Kinney, who's the cinematographer, and I believe you're unmuted. And if you want to say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking out our pilot.
Welcome, Sarah. And then we have Chip Hamilton, the legend himself.
Happy to be here. So happy to be here. Love Lady Liberty. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. I couldn't say again enough about everybody involved in this process. It's wonderful. One real quick thing, though, if I can, I was chomping at the bit to, again, you're talking about race relations in regards to the film and everything like that. And one of the things I can absolutely say is everybody in on this film was absolutely incredible, and that was actually one of the most diverse film sets I've ever been on, and it was so great to see young filmmakers taking that microcosm, and then hopefully we can provide such a bigger one. I mean, from all across the board, whether it be LGBTQIA to women in filmmaking to Black cast members to everything, and I just think it's so important, even to start from like again a smaller level, even a short film slash pilot, to create that on a massive level as well too. So again, kudos to everybody involved, because that is so very important.
Yeah, thank you, Chip. I laugh really hard when you start singing. Very important.
I still have that song stuck in my head. So yeah.
We will do for the rest of the night. Yeah. And then our third special guest, which I'm also really excited about, you may have seen her at this point in the little squares, is Karen Eilbacher, aka Quinn.
Hello.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. Hi. Thank you, Margarita. Hello, guys, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Quinn. It's really good to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yay. Okay, so we're all here, and you know who's here, so we can open up questions, and just a tiny piece of instruction about how to do this. You can go down with your cursor to participants, and if you click on it in your Zoom, you will see a function that says raise hand, and that is going to be the easiest way for my colleagues and moderators to see that you have a question, and they will unmute you and pass you the mic. So if you have a question, you can use that function.
While everybody's formulating their questions, I did see some stuff in the chat just about whether it's a pilot or a short. Julia and I shot this as a short, sort of hoping that we could take it somewhere, and we still hope we can keep telling the Lady Liberty story and Shay's story through a television series, and we are trying to make that happen.
Yes, I hope so. I can deal with that cliffhanger of the text that says, I miss you, I'm thinking of you. We need to know.
First question is coming from Brenda Rosado. Brenda.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for this.
Hi, Brenda.
Zoom social. I don't have wine. I'm a party pooper right now. Yeah, I don't have any. But yeah, I was curious about this strong presence of Lady Liberty, as in the Statue of Liberty in New York City. And I was wondering if it was completely something that you picked as a title from the beginning, or it came afterwards based on your setting, or also even if, you know, the meaning behind what the statue symbolizes, is it supposed to change, you know, in different episodes maybe that you're thinking about? Is it supposed to take on a different connotation, positive and negative? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much.
Good question, yeah.
I would say, so the first part of your question, was that always the name, or did that come later? That final scene of Shay kind of boarding this ferry in the middle of, you know, early morning, first ferry out, kind of feeling herself and it turning into this little photo shoot as she kind of takes in the world. That was always, from the first draft, that was always the final scene. And a lot of things changed, but that never changed. And I could never find the right title for it. And then pretty close to when we were finally shooting, I think I said to Taylor, I was like, Lady Liberty, it's so on the nose. And somehow it stuck. And which brings to the second part of your question is, we really love it because we feel like it does symbolize, to us, the statue is about, there's definitely a womanhood element to it. There's just like a strength standing there. There's a freedom in the way, you know, the history of people passing it on Ellis Island, which I connect to because that's where my ancestors came into the US. And yeah, it just feels really strong. And I don't think in other episodes we would change it. We would call that the name of the show. And it's really about Shay kind of going from this young, not so confident, trying to figure herself out girl in New York to, you know, someone who really is planted and knows who she is and can be the symbol of freedom and strength to ideally young queer girls or young female comedians or something like that.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're open for more questions. If I see Chip is ready to answer some questions. Let's see, maybe I can, as the audience warms up, I can ask another question. I'm really curious about the Uber scene where Quinn and Shay meet. And if you can tell us a bit about the making of that scene. It's not an uncommon experience to make small talk or having deeper conversation with people on Uber. As you said, Julia, something we all probably miss at this point. But yeah, just such a sweet, vulnerable scene that I'm curious, you know, about it.
I think just before Julia gets into the sort of backstory of it, the vulnerability and the sweetness really came from Julia and Karen together. Their energy, I think, is what brings so much of it out. And you really feel this sense of like a younger woman looking up to somebody and sort of wanting to be seen as cool in Quinn's eyes. And I think they really brought that out. So that's their performance more than anything.
Karen, do you wanna take it? Or tell them how we know each other too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, actually, Julia and I went to high school together in Westchester, New York, Right Country Day School, shouting out Right Country Day School. And I was actually in class the same year with Julia's sister, and Julia is 2 years younger. 3, excuse me. 3 is a good number, okay. And yeah, thanks, Chip. That scene is just so special. That was the first time actually I was working in a car with the camera attached to the outside of the car. And so we were working with a lot of different elements, let alone the human element of Shay and Quinn, but very much so the technical element, because there was Taylor, Yanni, who plays the Uber driver, fantastic. Oh my goodness, we could not stop laughing. Myself, of course, and Julia, and the camera. The camera is such a being. And so from my perspective, it was caring for all of these people at once, including the camera I'm speaking of as a being, very much so. It's alive. and it has a special power to catch what you see. And I know, Taylor, you mentioned about you know, looking up to Quinn from Shay's perspective, perhaps, and trying to look cool. I don't want to misquote you, so I'm paraphrasing. I'll just say, but really, like, on a more personal note, from behind the scenes, the things that Julia and I shared that evening, because we were shooting late into the evening, which was wonderful. And it was like we were having our entire high school experience there in a few minutes. And then we would jump into the scene, and really it was just so from my heart that I haven't shared with anyone, but it's just like, I'm looking at Shay that way because I'm looking at Julia that way. And I'm just looking at a human connection that way, you know, someone that you see all the time, but finally maybe years later, you're actually speaking with, whether it be in a film that you're making and through characters. But I was just speaking with Julia. I mean, and then you put in the title cards and in the credits, yeah, Quinn and Shay, sure. But that's what you were seeing. I was getting to know that sweet growing woman right before me, and it was really easy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful scene, and it feels very, very natural and very real, very touching. So yeah, thank you for telling us about it. Okay, we have a question in the chat, and then I see there's another hand up. And the question is, you probably won't want to give it away, but do you have ideas to take the story forward, plot development, and the like? Question mark.
We do.
Yeah.
All of our goodies. But kind of what we said about, you know, it's Shay's journey, and it's her journey into these different communities. And so we really want to focus on her journey into the queer community, kind of through Quinn and her world as she gets more comfortable there and gets shown around. And then her journey into the comedy community to kind of have her own comedy chops and walk away from kind of just being seen as the assistant who's in the shadow of the big celebrity. So those are journeys that Shay will go on, and Chip, her BFFFF, will be there along the whole way, and also get his own plot development.
Awesome. Any other? Yeah, Taylor, do you want to add anything to?
I mean, I think it's also about Shay's relationship with herself and sort of growing more confident and more secure, and then sometimes not. And I think what we really wanted to kind of bring out in the pilot in a lot of ways is those moments alone when Shay is sort of tested in her own confidence. And that's a big part of her journey too, is that sort of internal struggle or something.
Beautiful. I can't wait to see.
Yeah, we really hope we get to keep sharing it with you guys.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 questions.
Yeah, let's jump it over to Janice Plotkin, friend and JFI legend.
Ooh, I'm excited.
No, don't get too excited. Thank you so much. I really, it was so sweet, and it was so real. All the insecurity and then the kind of fake confidence and all that. It was really honest. So I loved it. And I'm curious to know, like, beginning to end, the idea, and then where you are with the pilot, and what are your best choices? What are your best wishes for the idea and the subject? And also just to kind of go through the idea of young love and coming out, all that. That to me was just beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll tackle the first question because that sounds easier. So yeah, the seed of the idea. I mean, Taylor can help me with some dates a little bit. I would say
couple years ago,
2016.
Yeah.
was when I kind of wrote a first draft, and it was just, I come from the comedy world. I do improv comedy in New York, and was just very hungry to write the best new, pilot that's a situational sitcom that would get me staffed on whatever show in LA. And I found myself going through my own experiences in life, coming out after college, and finding that I had something that I needed to get out of me, and I wanted to create some kind of content that maybe would, one, help myself and help others to see themselves, to express themselves. So it just came out of really letting myself write something that was truthful. And then luckily I got introduced to Taylor after I shared it with a friend who knew Taylor and thought she would really connect with the story and the material. And it was, a really fantastic match. And Taylor was my champion all through the writing process, making it not just just my life, but like a little more of a pilot.
Started with the therapy draft, and then we went on from there. Yeah.
And we just kept working together and really collaborating so well. And then we wanted to make it, and had a great time, finding the cast. And as I said before, Karen is someone who I always admired and looked up to in high school, and she was so Quinn when I was writing the character. So getting her to play it was fantastic. Chip is another like fun fact of it is that for the years before, we shot this, I worked for Jason Sudeikis, who plays Tommy, the comedian in the film, as his assistant. And it was an amazing experience. And it also led me to meet Chip, because Chip is Jason's other assistant. So this film was a lot about, real life, and then getting to play with the people that you love in it on screen, and then create something that you're proud of and getting to share it. I'll let Taylor take the rest of the journey from there.
Well, I was going to add to the sort of the realism quality. I think like my experiences in documentary, so that's sort of, I guess, what informed how I was directing a narrative for the first time. And also working with Sarah Kinney, who I had also done doc work with in the past. And I think she brought and elevated all of our stuff. So thanks to her that it looks as beautiful as it does.
Thank you, Sarah.
And then, the journey of it, just to finish up your question, was we premiered the pilot at Tribeca Film Festival in New York City last spring, and it was a fantastic experience. And we went on to screen at a bunch of the LGBTQ festivals around the country. And then we also spent time out in LA screening, and Taylor and I went to Oaxaca, Mexico. So this film has been seen a lot of places, and Taylor and I have gotten to travel a lot of places. So it's been fantastic. And as we said before, so we're now, going through the rounds of production companies and things like that to keep telling Shay's story and try to turn this into a series with multiple episodes and multiple seasons.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another question in the chat that is, what Jewish women and other comedians or showrunners are you inspired by?
Ooh, good question.
Great question.
Thank you.
I love Sarah Silverman, and
we
she
both
definitely
love Sarah.
Yeah, we both have the Sarah Silverman connection. Yes.
Yeah.
Just
love her. Yeah, we don't know her.
Very much a big inspiration for seeing someone who I thought kind of looked like me a little bit when I was a kid, and her being out there and wild and loud and goofy and childlike, and me just loving that.
Yeah. Any other role model for any of you? Taylor, Chip, Karen?
I'm just going back to the question that we had as far as like the best choices that we made. And again, I'm just a small portion of it, but I do kind of, again, if it just doesn't speak enough to, again, the females that have just come together. I mean, it literally seeing them again, and it's a pilot. So and it's again, very, 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 very low budget film. So to see them all come together, I'm not even kidding. It was literally like the Avengers just assembling. I mean, it was just like they had to know what they wanted, how they wanted it, And again, the person I think that isn't, again, getting enough credit in this as well too is Sarah. Again, as Karen mentioned, just the presence of the camera. Just knowing and making these absolute decisive choices and just making the final product look so beautiful that it was just absolutely incredible. But it was the collaboration. Again, one superhero doesn't defeat them all, but it's, again, the collaboration between all of them. And again, in the heat of the moment where time is of the essence, equipment is of the essence, and the crew is of the essence, these ladies took this undertaking of giving us such a great story to tell and have it been told, that they just, again, in choosing each other and relying on each other was just something that I was just absolutely awestruck by. So again, I just, they're just amazing individuals. And again, all of them are just the collaboration of all of them. Karen, Sarah, Taylor, Julia are just, in those days, I was like, wow, they were my role models. Cause I was like, these ladies, y'all have it together. I'm trying to decide what outfit I'm gonna wear. These guys, they're 10 steps ahead of like what location they're gonna go on to next. And it was just something to be had. So again, I just all the admiration in the world for them.
Who loves Chip?
Yeah, right. Also, Chip brought the most energy, I think, of anybody, and we needed it.
That's a damn lie. That's a lie.
Great. So you are role models and inspirations for Chip. Anyone else that comes to mind? I'm really curious about this question too, maybe for Karen or
Yeah, sure. I mean, is Marty Noxon Jewish? I don't know. That's not the first thing I really ask a person, but I worked with Marty Noxon, the showrunner on Dietland, AMC, and she was just fantastic. I mean, when we were shooting my last episode, I played a twin, actually, named Jillian, and Dietland, again, was on AMC one season. You might catch reruns. Marty Noxon was such an intimate director, showrunner, and I just really look forward to engaging more with Marty in the television world and elsewhere.
I'll give a shout out to Jill Soloway. I think she's fantastic. They're fantastic.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question by Donna. And you're unmuted, so go ahead whenever.
Yes. So I found the dynamic between the barista, Shay, and Margot quite interesting. Who would like to comment on that?
That is really thanks to Chris Burns' performance. We told him that we wanted a sassy barista, sort of annoyed with the fact that they weren't ordering anything, and he delivered beyond anything we could have anticipated. So that all credit to Chris there.
And the fact that neither one of them ordered anything, what was the thinking behind that?
I think it's all about social norms, and that you're going to go have a difficult talk with someone. So let's get a coffee. And then it's, I don't want coffee. I don't want coffee. What do you have to say? Let's talk. I don't even want to be here. So it kind of plays into how we try to make things like, oh, we'll just be human about it. But then it's like, get away.
But I love that she goes back and orders a latte.
Oh yeah, then she wants what she really wants. Yeah.
She actually wants
that milk. Yeah.
Get that milk.
Awesome.
It's a defiant latte.
Yeah. Okay. I think on this note of a latte or a cocktail or anything you guys are having at the moment, I will raise my glass and thank Julia, Taylor, Sarah, Karen, Chip, and all of you guys, and also the amazing JFI staff for being here tonight. It was really, really fun. I can't wait, and I'm sure everyone else is in the same situation to see where Lady Liberty is going, and to see more about all the different storylines evolving, and the jacket. I really want to see if Shay is going to continue wearing that jacket. Yeah, it was really fun, and I think, again, as I said, this is a really important moment to be talking about many of the themes that are in the show. And we look forward to seeing many of you at Cinegogue Summer Days in a few weeks. So as I said, keep an eye out for more information and tickets. And to all Next Wavers, we'll have a Next Wave event. So will be fun and will be cool. And to our other spectators present tonight, thank you so much. So good night, have a good evening, or good night probably if you are in New York. It's getting late.
In front of the test.
Thank you all, and applause to Lady Liberty.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Good job.
Wonderful.
Okay, yeah, out of here. Yep.
Sorry, that's just what I read there.
Can hear.
This is great.
Yeah, super fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to
This is great.
our captioner today. We really appreciated the help in making our event accessible. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Cheers.
No, I didn't mean to. It just. All right, what's up?
I love this.
That was my aunt.
I love it. Love it. Love it. If it was my parents, he'd be like, "How do you work this thing?"
Well, you don't see the chat, but yeah, there's many.
It's a nice background, Margarita.
That was great.
It was on Canva. When I saw it, I was like, okay, that's it.
Yeah. She looked happy. She like,
All the
my arm does not hurt.
And I started tripping if we wanted to celebrate liberty and America at the moment, but I just had not to overthink. Yeah. Yeah.
For the filmmakers, you guys got some really nice comments and shout outs in the chat. So if you want, we can save the chat and send you it.
Yeah.
We can just scroll
Oh,
through.
thank you.
So sweet.
Yeah, I saved all of it.
Really nice messages. So
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to see that. I saw the beginning, but I might have got, yeah.
Cool.
thank you guys so much. The JFI staff that helped us behind the scene, and congratulations, Margarita.
Yes.
Captioner
Yes.
and our guest
Thank you, Margarita.
We probably have 120 emails exchanged since November.
Since November, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really glad we can make this happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's be in touch, and if you make more of this, we want it.
Yes, definitely.
Exclusive.
All right, team.
Aw.
Bye, Karen. Good to see you.
See ya.
Bye,
See
Karen.
ya.
Karen, thank
Bye,
you.
Chip. Are you in LA, Chip?
I am. Yes.
Excellent. Is it dry? Real dry?